Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and let's get started with what I think is the most important rookie mistake you can avoid. Easily the most important tool in your workshop is a square. And if you have one of these inexpensive tri-squares, you may be getting false readings. And if you have one of these with a wooden handle, you may be getting false readings. You need to purchase, at some point, you need to get a good quality machinist steel square. They're always accurate, they're not expensive, and they will save you a lifetime of heartache and problems. Let me show you why a square is so important. This is the tool you will be using to set up your machinery. You can't get quality joints without the machinery being accurately set. Even a bandsaw blade needs to be aligned. But there's even more than that, because after you've cut the wood, very often you need to check to make sure that it's absolutely square and true, because if it's not, it can't go together properly. In fact, if two of them are off by a degree or two, you're going to get sloppy, ugly joints. Having wood that doesn't go together properly takes all the fun out of woodworking, and you can solve it with something as simple as an excellent quality machinist square. The next most important thing is a good quality tape. You don't need a hulking big 25-foot tape in a woodworking shop. I pick up these. They're called cabinet makers tapes. I buy them. They're inexpensive. I buy them from Lee Valley. I actually have 3 of them. Buy at least 2 of them, because in your workshop you'll often misplace it. You'll leave it somewhere and then you go spending time looking for another tape. I always have 3 of them on hand, one at the table saw, one at my sliding miter, and this one lives at my workbench. But there's a lot more to tape measures than just having something that's small and light and easy to use. For example, 85 to 90% of the population is right-handed, so we typically pick up a pen or pencil in our right hand and a tape in our left hand, and when you pull a tape like this out, most of the tapes you probably already have or will look at will have the numbers upside down. So then you have to decide whether you're going to fuss around and read them the right way and put the pen in your left hand, or read the numbers upside down. And I'm convinced that this is what creates much of the measure twice, cut once philosophy in woodworking, and I absolutely hate that, because you can actually purchase a different tape measure that reads the numbers correctly. You just have to look around. There are left and right-handed tapes, and if you pick up a pencil like I do in your right hand, I want to see the numbers the right way up, because I can't read numbers upside down. I make mistakes. And the very moment that I discovered you could buy a tape that you could read this way, I stopped making mistakes. I don't make mistakes anymore. I never measure twice and cut once. I measure once, I cut once, and it's accurate 99% of the time. So get a proper tape. The other thing that I do, this is my travel tape, and this one has both, and of course it's upside down because that's the way it is, but this is my travel tape. When I'm going to the hardware store, it's in inches on one side, or the top side, but it's in millimeters in the lower side, because a lot of things that you're looking at or purchasing, they come in millimeters, and I want to be able to know what that equivalent is. So get yourself, and I've even put my name on it so I identify it, get yourself a small little tape like that sometime, just for traveling and taking to the lumber store. That'll save you a lot of fussing around. The next thing to consider in woodworking is when you're purchasing tools, regardless of what the tool is, you must have good quality bits and blades. Using good quality bits and blades is a non-negotiable, particularly when it comes to a table saw. I see people all the time with really good quality table saws, saw stops, and big cabinet saws, and they're using $30 blades in a beautiful big saw like that. Then on the other hand, I see people who know what they're doing. They're using little small portable saws, but they've got 2 or 3 $80, $90 blades that they're using, and they're getting beautiful work. Here's why that makes such a difference. First of all, when you're using a blade and you don't even really know what it is, you're using it for ripping or cross-cutting, and the quality of cut that you're getting roughness. So it's rough cross-cutting, it's rough ripping, or both. And the problem with that is you spend so much time sanding, fussing around, trying to get nice edges. When you buy quality blades, you get quality cuts. And that means that your cuts are going to be clean without a lot of fuzziness on them. They're going to be accurate. There's not going to be waving in your board. All sorts of different things that happen when you get better quality blades, and you don't need to spend a lot more. What's interesting with quality blades is you often get longer life out of them. You may spend twice as much on a blade, but it'll last 3 or 4 times longer between resharpenings. Inexpensive blades, you can't even resharpen them. So in the end, it's actually cheaper buying good quality blades for what it is that you're doing. Now, I'm not going to get into table saw blades here today. I've done videos on that. I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. You'll be able to go there and you will be educated on what the different teeth, why you have different teeth, what you can do with quality blades, and how to identify them. But I'm going to show you this quickly. So the reason that blades are so important, bits and blades, is because that's the part that is cutting the wood. Very, very important. Now, very quickly, one of the ways to identify an inexpensive blade from a more expensive blade, this little slot here is called an expansion slot. And the purpose of that is when the blade gets hot when it's cutting wood, if the blade doesn't have a place to expand into, the metal actually starts to warp. On this blade here is also an expansion slot, and you notice that it looks like an upside down question mark. It does the same thing as this. Now imagine how easy that is to make. You drill a hole and you cut a line in that. That's easy. This one here tells me that this is cut with a laser. This is a precision blade, and it makes all the difference in the world in terms of truing and in cutting. So always look for quality bits and blades. That's the part that cuts the wood. It's the most important part of woodworking. One of the secrets that's not talked about much in woodworking is moisture content. There are 2 kinds of meters that you can get. This one is a surface meter, and this one is a pin. And you can see the little pins there. Let me show you the difference. So the difference between these 2 meters, the pin meter is typically used for very rough wood. For example, firewood. When you want to check the content of the firewood, you drive the pins in, and then as you turn, that little light should come on there sometime. There it is there. So that tells me the moisture content of that is 18%, which is really high. For firewood, it's okay, but for cutting for wood for furniture or anything, you would never use anything that content high. Now, the purpose of a surface meter is that you can put it right, of course, on the surface of the wood, and it will give you a reading. And in this case, it's a little more accurate reading. In this case, it says 15.8. So typically these are more accurate, but they often need to do a little bit of, you need to sort of set them. There's little settings that you might need to make in here depending on the wood that you're using. And this particular one will read surface sort of within an inch or so, but it'll also read deeper if you want to do that. The nice thing with surface moisture meters is that if you're going to the lumber store and you're wanting to buy lumber, you can take this. You don't have to ask permission to be stabbing their wood. And some places won't let you use these because they don't want to sell wood. You don't want to buy wood with a bunch of holes in it that people have come in to check the moisture on. Moisture is very important in wood for 2 reasons. Because wood moves, If your wood is not dry, your joints can move, they can come apart, they can develop cracks, they can split, all sorts of things that can happen if you use wet wood. And wet wood typically starts above 10%. We like to be 10% or lower in most parts of the country. The other thing that happens with wet wood, and I get emails from this all the time, people make furniture and they get it all finished and it hasn't cracked or moved yet because it's still wet, but then they put a coating on it, and then I get emails about, oh, my project that I made is the surface has gone all cloudy after I put polyurethane on it. And the reason is the moisture in the wood is trying to get out, and it's underneath the polyurethane. It gathers and it makes it cloudy. It can't get out, so it clouds up the surface. And the only way to get rid of that is to strip off the polyurethane, let the project dry for weeks or months, whatever it's going to take, and then recoat it. So it's very important that you know the content of the wood that you're working with. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is joinery. And if you have done any working with furniture or wood, you will know about mortise and tenon. This is a tenon. You can see what that looks like. I just made that. This is a mortise. It's a square hole, and I started on that, and I bailed on it. And the way it works is you make a square hole, you drill holes with your drill press, and then you fit that into it. Now that all looks well and good, but the first thing you have to be aware of is how much longer your wood needs to be, because you have to make sure your wood is long enough for a tenon to fit in. Years ago, when I made mortise and tenons, and I was saving up to buy a mortising machine, and I discovered this little tool. It's called a dowel max, and this thing absolutely changed my life in woodworking. No more mortise and tenons. Now I could cut my wood exactly precise, absolutely square on all sides, whether I'm putting wood together this way or this way or this way. It works in all cases, and now I use dowels, and these are a little bit tight because I haven't used this wood in some time, but they just go together like that. I got it upside down. Just go together like that. Now, showing up in this area right in here, there's going to be a link. I've done a whole video on using the dowel max, all the different things it does. I don't sell these, but if you're getting into woodworking, you can save yourself. The equivalent tool is a $1,000 fest tool, a domino tool. You can buy these things for, I forget, around a couple $100, I think, or less. And for a home woodworker, this is the perfect little tool. It'll do all of your joinery. It's strong, it's absolutely accurate, and it'll replace all sorts of tools. So go and have a look at that. Well, that concludes my video for today. If you're new to woodworking and you're here trying to find out things that you can do to enjoy your experience more, that's what I covered off today. Those things that I learned the hard way, you can learn a lot easier. And if you're experienced and you're still here and you're helping me by commenting to novices and answering their questions, I really appreciate your help as well. As I mentioned before, there's a video going to show up here or here somewhere on selecting saw blades. But if you need more information on all sorts of things woodworking, because I have over 600 videos. If you go to Woodwork Web, you can use the search section and you can search any topic, and that will give you more information on the things that you may want, whether it's dowel max or whether it's saw blades or router bits, all sorts of different things. So I'm Colin Cadet for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching.